Welcome to Power User with Crash Long Johns. That's me. In this video, CAT2 Excel Multiple Choice dropdown to SharePoint List Column Choice utilizing Power Automate. We're going to show how you can take your Excel table that includes a multiple choice dropdown and get that multiple choice information written to SharePoint choice column that allows multiple selections, all utilizing Power Automate to do the work. Let's get started and jump over the computer. Now that it's computer, you'll see that I have an Excel sheet opened up, and inside this Excel sheet there I have created a table, and that table name is multi-select. And as you can see, we got a few different columns: requester, trail name, trail type, bike selection. Those equal what I need to capture within my SharePoint list. Now for requester, as long as I utilize the person's email address, I can pull that into the actual people picker field in SharePoint column. Now trail name, trail type, got some text, and bike selection is our multiple select. So if we look at the last cell here for our bike selection, I'm going to go ahead and pull in a few of those, and as you can see, I'm able to multiple select. Now as far as how that is done, I'm not going to go into the details of that. It does require some Visual Basic and some of the developer and data. Now as for that, we'll add into the description basically how to create a multi-select drop-down list that Sharon Smith supplied out there on YouTube, and it was well done and easy to follow. From there, what we're looking at is we've got our SharePoint document library where we're going to actually take our Excel sheet and drag and drop in here. And then from there, Automate is going to do its work. And this is what the outcome would be. We'll be able to see requester, the trail name, trail type, and bike selection, and seeing the multiple select, and they're all in their own little pills. And we'll explain further why the last bike selection 2 is just white pills versus the color pills. So we can go into that later. Right now, let's go ahead and transition to Automate. Now that we have transitioned over to our Automate, let's go ahead and start building this out. So that way we can get the multiple choice from the Excel table to SharePoint list multi-select choice. So first up, we're going to go ahead and do a trigger, and that trigger is when a file is created, properties only. And we're going to pick our site address and get the library name. In my case, it's the CAT2 Excel Multi-Data SBO list. And we're going to go ahead and go one step further because we want this to only trigger when a certain file contains a certain name. So we're going to go ahead and go to settings. And what this looks like is we're going to get this trigger condition is what we're going to add. That contains trigger output, the body file name with extension, and then we're going to insert the file name what to contain. So in my case, it's going to be this right here, and I'm looking for any file that contains in the file name Excel multi to share SBO list. We're going to go ahead and copy that one. We're going to add that to our trigger condition. And we're going to go ahead and hit done. Next, we're going to do a new step. And we're going to do list rows present in a table. We're going to get our location, which again is going to be the SharePoint site. In this case, it's going to be my Crash Long Johns. We're going to get the document library. It's going to be a CAT2. And then our file. Now for this, if we go ahead and click on the folder, we'll see there's no items. Now what's taking place is because our file has a table and it also has Visual Basic VBA macro enabled, it's not showing up. Well, you might say, well, how am I going to get the file name? Either A, remember the file name, but let me show you so that way you don't have to always have to remember. We're going to add an action in between when a file is created and the list rows. We're going to go ahead and get file metadata. We're going to get the SharePoint one. We're going to go ahead and pick our site. We're going to get file name, and in this case, what we're after is we're going to go over here to our actual folder, which is our CAT2 Excel. And now we're going to go ahead and grab our file. Now this gives us exactly where that's located at. In this case, we only need this last little piece right there. We're going to go ahead and copy that. And then in the list rows, that's what we're going to put into the file. In my case, we got this right here. So we want this piece right there. And we're going to paste that in there. And then for our table, could not retrieve because we don't cut the dot XLSM. All right, so let's go ahead and now pick our table. In this case, it's multi-select. So we can go ahead and get rid of our get file metadata. We can delete that out. We don't need that no longer in our automate. Now next is we're going to add an action. In this case, we're going to do compose. And the compose, what we're after is we're going to go get that actual selection. So in our case, we want to go ahead and rename this so we can keep some clarity here. So I'm going to say compose bike selection. That's what we're after. And now in here, we're going to get the bike selection. Now that's going to automatically put it into apply to each, which is fine. It's okay. We're going to do another compose. And we're going to rename this one. And now we're going to do say compose, and we're going to split bike selection. And what that looks like, let's look at the split. So what we're after is we're going to split the outputs of the composed bike selection, and we're going to split it with the semicolon. Now, in the Excel, when I did the multi-select, I had in between each of the multi-select the semicolons. So that's what we're going to split it by. Now you could have that as a comma or whatever, but it's up to you. But in this case, utilizing semicolon. So we're going to go ahead and get our expression. We're going to go ahead and do split, open close parentheses, and then inside the split, we're going to go dynamic content, and we're going to do the outputs of bike selection. And then we're going to do at the end of that, we're going to do the comma, and then single quotes and our semicolon, and we're going to say OK. So there's our split. All right. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add in a select. We're going to select our data operation. Now what we're wanting is we're wanting the output of the compose split. For our map, we are going to turn that into a value. And for our enter value, we're going to do expression item. And we're hit OK. So what this is going to do now is it's going to take our split and it's going to put it into that JSON value format that will be accepted in SharePoint. So last, we're going to go ahead and add an action. Now we're going to do create item. We're going to create our item. We're going to pick our site, again, Crash Long Johns. We're going to get the list name. In this case, it is the CAT2 multi-choice to SharePoint list. Should be, nope, here it is. Excel multi-choice to SharePoint list multi-choice. And now we're going to go ahead and fill in some information here. So our requester, we're going to do a enter custom value, and we're going to put in requester. For trail name, we're going to put in trail name. For our trail type value, and enter custom and trail type. Now for our bike selection, we're going to go ahead and hit the little switch to input an entire array for both. For bike selection, now what we're going to do is we're going to the output of select for both. Because one, I want to show, again, talk about like why that one was a colored pills and the other one was white. We'll talk about that here in a bit. All right, so we had that. Now, what we want to do is we want to go add a new step, and we're going to do that outside of the actual apply to each. So we're going to do new step, and we're going to send an HTTP request to SharePoint. And for this one, we're going to go ahead and pick our site address, which is going to be our Crash Long Johns. The method, we're going to say post. And now we're going to get this URI, and we're going to put in some headers, which the header we're going to put in refer. And for the value, we're going to say bypass dash shared dash lock. And we're going to have to get our URI. So let's pull that up. So what we're doing is we're going to get this send an HTTP URI. So we're going to get the web list, get by title, and then get by item number and recycle. What we're doing with this is we're actually going to sit there and take whatever file that was saved or dropped into the document library that has the Excel multi to SharePoint on SBO list title. We're going to go ahead and after it's written to SharePoint, we're deleting it out of the document library because it's no longer needed. So this CAT2-Excel multi to SBO list is the actual name of the document library. And then the get item by ID is going to be the ID. So let's go ahead and grab this information. And let's go ahead and paste that into our URI area. The ID we're going to update here in a bit. So right here is when a file is created. We're going to put the ID in there. Let's go ahead and get rid of the ID. We're good there. Let's look, make sure we didn't miss anything. Oh, we have one that we definitely want to take care of for list rows present in the table that I bypassed. And this one is I want to add in one extra filter query. So let's say that you have multiple rows in your table, but the information being filled in does not actually fill in all of the rows. So you're going to have empty rows. But we want to go ahead and add in a filter query so that way it's only going to bring back whatever rows actually have to our data. In this case, we're going to look at the requester column, and we're going to say if it's not equal, and single quote, to blank. So if it's not equal to blank, it's going to get that information. It's going to list that information so that way we'll have that. Now, we have when a file is created and list rows present in a table. Now, we only use this file that was in the actual document library right here. So for our base, because this is going to be the file that everybody is going to be dragging and dropping in that is going to be saved to the document library. So this is kind of our gold copy that we're just kind of using so that way we can get everything set up. But with that is it's not going to look at this gold copy anymore because it's going to be based on when a file is created. So now that we've done all of our plugging and chugging for our create item to get in these pieces for the other fields, now we're going to go ahead and take out the file that is CAT2, and we're going to replace that over here when a file is created, and we are going to get file name with extension. So that's been done, and then our table, as you see, it kind of arrowed out. It doesn't have a table. We're going to enter custom value, and this one we're going to replace that with our actual table name, which was multi-select. So if we look back through my notes, we'll see right here that table is multi-select. Let's go ahead and minimize that, and we're going to go ahead and save. So we're good. So we now have a full working automate that will take basically when a file is created and create it to the SharePoint list. Let's go ahead and test things out. So let's first go ahead and make sure everything is turned on. So let's turn on our automate. Let's go back to edit. And let's go ahead and test this out. So let's go ahead and hit test. We're going to do a manual test. There's our document library. So I'm going to drag over and we're going to drop a file. There it is. We're going to check our automate out. It's running. Here shortly should have a fully successful. There it is. We go back to our document library and hit refresh. We'll see that this file should be deleted. There it is. And we're going to go to our SharePoint and we're going to refresh. And there is the information from the Excel sheet. Now, earlier, I did mention to kind of, again, go over why these are particularly colored and not colored. So for the bike selection, the first one, what in this case, it didn't have a whole lot of choices that would need to be made in the actual Excel sheet. So let's say if there was 3 or 4, maybe 5. Well, that I could go ahead and go into the bike selection and do edit and then put in the actual choices. And those choices then would match and then it would color code. But let's say you have a huge amount of drop downs in your Excel sheet that they could choose from for multi-select. Well, that's going to be a little hard that you'd have to always come in and keep track of what the choices are, because you're going to use the Excel sheet to keep track of your choices that they're going to be able to select from. So in this case, we just did choice because it needs some input for a choice, but then just allow the manual values being added. And again, your multiple select, then they come through and they're not colored pills, but it still allows it to all be filterable and everything would be added based on the SharePoint or the Excel values that are in the Excel list. Well, I hope you really liked the video and being able to see how you can sit there and take Excel multiple choice to SharePoint using Power Automate. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Thank you for stopping by. Until next time, keep learning.